All right, so I am doing my presentation on the role of the liver and the pancreas and how they facilitate digestion. So here I'm starting off my PowerPoint slide with a very brief little picture here. So you can see, I hope you can see my mouse moving. If you can see, here is the pancreas. So it resides right under the stomach. So this is the stomach where everything will split out into this is called the duodenum or duodenum, whichever you want to say. And then we have the liver up here that kind of sits on top of the stomach. And you can see the ducts that kind of go and interact with each other, which will become significantly important throughout the slide, which I'll come back to. So first we will start with the pancreas. So I want to start kind of with the anatomy. So you can see the pancreas right here. Like I said, it sits, kind of resides in the duodenum right here. So there's three different kind of regions, I guess. So you can see here is the head, which is the majority of it, that sits in that C shape of the duodenum. You have the body, and then you have the tail that extends out a little bit more. And you can see the pancreatic duct in here. You can also see the bile duct, which is important because, as you know, it will come from the liver. And obviously you can't see here, but the stomach would be on top of the pancreas, and the liver would be on top of that up here. So I want to go to the functions of the pancreas. There are a handful. So the biggest thing to notice is that the pancreas is a mixed gland. It does both endocrine and exocrine functions. So the exocrine function, which we'll focus on first, is the synthesis and secretion of the digestive enzymes. And this is into the duodenum. So if you remember the picture back, it shoots the enzymes from the pancreatic duct into the duodenum. This takes up most of the tissue space. So there's three different types of digestive enzymes, and they are proteases, which are the trypsinogen and the chymotrypsinogen. These will be the digestion of the proteins. The alpha amylase or the A amylase, whatever you want to call it, is the digestion of the carbohydrates. And then there's the lipases, which is the digestion and breakdown of lipids. So as you can probably realize, is that the pancreatic exocrine secretion is under hormonal control. So the hormones that stimulate the secretion of the exocrine secretion of the digestive enzymes are secretin and cholecystokinin. So CCK is the direct stimulation of the enzyme secretion, whereas secretin promotes water and bicarbonate secretion to assist in digestion as well. So here is the endocrine function of the pancreas. I hope this right there. Let me move this so you can see better. So these endocrine functions mostly focuses on the synthesis and secretion of insulin and glucagon into the blood. And these are directly released from cells and they are absorbed into the nearby capillaries. So remember that endocrine functions are directly regulated by blood. So they are released into the bloodstream, which then they go on and interact with what they need to. There are more than these three cells that I'm showing you right here. There's PP cells and islets of Langerhans, but I wanted to focus mostly on these three because they are directly related to glucagon and insulin. So alpha cells or A cells secrete glucagon that stimulates the release of glucose into the blood. And then beta or B cells secrete insulin, which stimulates the uptake of glucose from the blood. So you can see they kind of do the opposite. So in response to low levels of glucose, alpha cells will secrete glucagon to increase the levels of glucose in the blood, or by releasing glucose. And then beta cells are kind of the opposite. So when there is a lot of glucose in the blood, beta cells will secrete insulin, which will uptake the glucose, which we will see exactly where later. So this, as you can definitely understand, has a direct link to diabetes. So individuals who lack the capacity to uptake glucose will have a lot of glucose in the blood and don't have the necessary cells to secrete the insulin. Will have to take insulin in order for by injection in order to get the glucose into their system. And then D cells secrete somatostatin. This inhibits both insulin and glucose secretion. Under specific conditions, if there's too much insulin or too much glucagon in the blood, somatostatin can be used to regulate it, help with the regulation. And now we will move on to the liver. Let me move this again. So we kind of saw this before. You have the liver here, and then you had the stomach under it, and then you had the pancreas under that. So you can see there's the gallbladder with the bile duct, which is directly attached to the liver, and it assists with the bile. But we'll get into that a little later. So I kind of wanted to start out with the structure. So you can see it's the largest internal organ located in the right upper quadrant of the abdomen. It has a major left and right lobe. It has two smaller inferior lobes, which aren't really well defined here. So you can see that there, if you think anatomically, the left is the liver here, and then the right is the big lobe here. And the main specialized cell of the liver, which secretes, well, you'll see later, the major functions is the specialized cell of the liver is the hepatocytes. So functions of the liver, this is not all of them. This is just a handful that I thought would be important. They produce bile as an exocrine function to help with the absorption of fats and to assist with digestion. The conversion of amino acids into glucose. So this gluconeogenesis is creating new glucose. So gluco means glucose, neo, new, genesis means to create. So they can use amino acids to create glucose if needed. Detoxification of many ingested toxins, including many drugs. So it's pretty common that everyone knows that drugs and alcohol are usually regulated and detoxified in the liver. So that is why it needs a lot of people, you need to be careful of drinking too much because you can cause liver failure, or using drugs that are detoxified by the liver in collaboration, because that could really hurt your liver. Amino acid deamination producing urea. This also, liver is where is the storage of glucose. The term, I wish I put it up there, but it's glycogen is when glucose is stored in the liver. And this is something I just threw in there. The liver also modifies thyroxine with T4 produced by the thyroid. So that is a thyroid hormone that is released but actually isn't inactive. It needs to be acted upon by the liver to be changed into T3, which is the active form, and then it can be used by the body. So without the liver, the thyroid hormone T4 would be inactive and not be able to be used throughout the body in the active form T3. So I wanted to, let me move this again, so kind of relate everything back to a concept map. So you can see my main focus was glucose levels in the blood, which we know are regulated directly by insulin and glucagon. So you remember high levels of glucose in the blood, insulin will be released in order to uptake that. And the opposite would happen. If there's low levels of glucose, glucagon would be released in order to release some glucose into the blood. And you know that these are all, insulin and glucagon are secreted by the pancreas. So you can see here it kind of goes down and secreted by the pancreas. And over here is what acts on. So acts on body cells, but I really wanted to focus on the liver. So we know that the liver is the storage of glucose through glycogen. So let me say that again. So glucose is stored in the liver by glycogen. So the pancreas secretes this insulin and glucagon, and it acts on the liver by, like I said, if there's low levels of glucose in the blood, glucagon will be secreted, which will then assist with the, I don't want to necessarily say breakdown of glycogen, but the release of the glycogen, no, it would be the breakdown of the glycogen to release the glucose into the blood. And then insulin acts, like I said, opposite. So the insulin would act on the glucose that is already in the bloodstream to make it uptake by the liver and can be stored there, which then will be converted by glycogen. So kind of everything just, comes full circle, and they help with digestion as well. Thank you.